This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 6:02. I will now call to order the January 27th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings and meetings. Our first item on the agenda is a public hearing for abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by GZA Geo-Environmental on Grand Meadow Corporation at Holly Circle and Crestview Drive, map 166, lots 75 through 80, 83 through 89, and map 171, lots 14-1, 14-2, 15 through 22, and 25 through 29. This is Mass DEP file number 1510327. And this is the one that we are waiting for responses to our RFP until February 10th, correct?
No, that's 385. So this one was selected.
That's right.
So the commission selected Goddard Consulting last meeting. And since the last meeting, we have a signed contract with them. And we received the funds from the applicant and they're held in escrow. Thank you for making that happen. We requested the full amount, including the optional follow-up review, with the knowledge that we'll return the funds to the applicant if the optional review is not needed.
Okay.
So the update I have from Steve at Goddard Consulting is just that he wants to wait to see how long the snow sticks around before deciding on a firmer timeline.
Makes sense.
And when he decides on a timeline, would you let us know like a week or so? Because I would have to reply.
Can you reintroduce yourself?
Oh, Jackie from GZA.
Last name?
Cleaver.
Thank you.
Just if Steve could give us a week in advance so we can make sure that the property is all flagged. A lot of stuff has been taken down or blown down. So
great. Yep, I'll communicate that to him. And the commission has not yet done a site visit here and discussed doing one around the time of the peer review, as well as Pascomic wanted to be notified by the peer reviewer when this, because they own the property that the wetland is on. So when the field review component of the peer review occurs, Pascomic and the Conservation Commission will be notified.
Okay. So everything's in place with the contract. Is there anything we need to do there?
There are no further steps. This was a question that the procurement officer said I could sign for knowing that the commission accepted this contract at the last meeting. Mm-hmm. Is that typically your signature?
No, we typically it's handled by the agent.
Okay, great.
Yep, that's great.
Then we're all set. That's the only update I have.
Okay. And so then we're looking to continue until the next meeting, I assume, and check in on schedule?
That sounds good.
Okay. And that is February 10th, right?
Yep.
We have a motion to continue?
Motion. Go ahead.
Move to continue to February 10th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tried something new. You weren't here when we discussed.
Whoa.
One more time. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries.
I haven't been
sworn in.
Still not sworn in. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Your name's on the website.
I know.
I thought you were sworn in if your name was in there. But I went to download the minutes
Unless
earlier.
it didn't happen when I
Okay.
yeah, I checked for an email from the city clerk. I haven't gotten one.
You may need to just go in and
do it, prompt them.
Say hello.
Did
Yeah.
you get a letter from the mayor's office?
No,
Oh,
I can follow up on that, Heather.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can walk down any afternoon.
Right.
Okay. Our next order of business is a public hearing for notice of intent filed by the Berkshire Design Group on behalf of Community Builders, Inc. for a new housing development at 385 Main Street, map 154, lot 32-1. This is Mass DEP file number 1510330. This is the one that is continued
Yes,
till February 10th. Did we already continue?
I think so.
I believe so.
so we're just waiting for new proposals by February 6th.
Yes, so the commission should have responses to the RFP. I've received one so far, with no indication that we'll receive any others. Have received a few refusals, but no other promises. Does the commission typically review just a single proposal? Right.
It doesn't happen very often. I don't think it ever
I
has.
can't remember.
It's
I don't think just one.
not preferred, but if we've made a good faith effort and sent it out to everyone and we can only get one, I believe we're able to proceed if it's an acceptable proposal. I might want to check with Mike Owens on that to make sure.
Okay.
And I believe that's as long as we've made the effort to solicit multiples and we are happy with the proposal, I think we can accept it.
Okay. Great.
All right, so that's already been officially continued. And we'll revisit at the next meeting when we have hopefully the responses to review. Our next item is a public hearing for request for determination of applicability filed by New England Forestry Foundation for springtime plantings and monitoring schedule. This is map 123, lot 12. I believe we have someone here to speak to this item.
Hi, yes, I'm Beth Gula. I'm the stewardship manager at New England Forestry Foundation and submitted the RDA application materials.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Beth.
Yeah, nice to be in attendance here today and talk to you about the project, any questions you have. I'm glad for your review of our proposal. Would you like me to do a summary or do you start with questions? Let me know what you'd like.
Yeah, Beth, why don't you give us a brief summary first?
Great. Yeah. So our proposal is to address the impacted areas along the North Branch of the Manhan River and the Riverine area that you all are aware of. As I am familiar with your earlier review, and our actions thus far have been to close off that area of the property so that the destructive digging will cease. So we are continuing to monitor that the areas of the property signed as no trespassing, no parking, continue to be respected, and we'll continue to do that going forward. The proposal that we have for addressing the impacted areas where the soil was dug and left loose are to do plug seedlings of an appropriate species like sycamore along in those areas, as well as scatter seeds. So there'll be minimal to no soil disturbance or continued excavation and digging there, and that would address the intention would be to address potential erosion concerns to revegetate and stabilize the site, and we'll continue to monitor those as well. And we would conduct that work at the time advised by the supplier of the seedlings and the seed mixes. That we would continue to stay in touch with Eva and with you all. Want to have that open line of communication to make sure that if anything does change or worsen on site, that we can work with you on continued compliance.
Great. Questions from the commission?
What size will the sycamore seedlings be, and would there be any equipment used in planting them?
That's a good question about the height and or diameter of the seedling. So they'd be at seedling size, small most was the intention, and would be planted kind of by plugging. So like kind of sticking a stake or stick in and inserting the seedling, or as otherwise advised by the supplier again, I guess. So I'm only familiar with doing sort of that sort of poking planting, but we would follow their recommendation to ensure the best success for the sycamores.
The intent, though, what we had discussed before was to limit digging and disturbance associated with planting by using small seedlings and just you generally kind of overplant with the understanding that they won't all survive, but you get a good start and good coverage for relatively low cost and low disturbance. Let us finish commission questions first, and then we'll. Any other comments or questions?
You know, there's no mention of the seedling sizes in any of the documents, but we did discuss what you're talking about to not have a disturbance.
Yeah, just to say, I also apologize. My brain, if my wires have gotten crossed and I've said saplings, because I mean seedlings as written in the proposal. So that would be up to an inch diameter or smaller. So not in terms of height, you know, not more than breast height. Typically for a seedling is my understanding, but I don't want to be exact. And yeah, I'd be happy to talk with you about the specifications we'd expect from the supplier of the sycamore.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, if there's no further comments from the commission, we can open it up to public questions. Just introduce yourself.
I would just like to know, George Boucher, 290 Loudville Road. The fact that the Loudville lead mines have always been a gold mine for mineral people.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they made a mess down there. They dug a lot of holes. I don't know if anybody's been down there.
Some of us have.
Yeah, they made a mess. But the other thing too is they just had some harvesting, and that has made more of a mess than those people digging next to the river. I don't know. I live right there, so I've been back there, and they really tore the place up, and it's more of a fire hazard now with all the brush. They didn't clean any brush. They just took the big logs and that was it. They left everything behind. And right now it really is a fire hazard in that area, across the street from where she is, and also further back. They really tore it up.
So from a jurisdictional perspective, harvesting that's done under a forest cutting plan is not the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. We explicitly do not have jurisdiction over those plans.
Even though it's in Easthampton?
That's correct. It's reviewed under a different process by the state forester. We have the opportunity to comment on those plans when they're presented, but we have no actual authority over that. So that said, I don't know, Beth, if you have anything you want to say in response.
Yeah, George, I didn't catch your address. My audio maybe went out. I'd be happy for you to contact us either by email or phone, or when we're out on the property. We're hoping part of the long-term plan for the property, because the majority of the property is still open to the public, specifically that area that was harvested that you are talking about and the trails through there. We're hoping to get neighbors, community members, and users out for some volunteer days starting this spring to all be on the same page about the condition of the property and supporting stewardship. So I'd welcome you to either join us or reach out and I can talk to you about those. And I will just say, you know, all applicable laws were followed during the harvest, including slash laws, which refer to the height of the slash that was left. And your description of the harvest is something it's pretty common that we hear specifically about the type of harvest, the type of operation that it was, where the intent is to leave the tops of the trees and that woody material to retain the nutrients on site. So there's, I think, opportunity to see how the forest changes over the coming years and seasons that I encourage you to do as well. And I'd be happy to talk to you at greater length about that, perhaps in another forum, since the question at hand on the RDA is under the Conservation Commission's decision. I don't want to take us too off track from the agenda. So I guess I would leave that up to you all, but I am happy to talk with you, George, and my contact information, if it's not included there, I can pass along here as well.
Yeah, if I could get it somewhere, is the information here?
I'm sure we can, we have it, we can provide that.
That would be great. I'd love to take a walk back there with you. There's some points that I'd like to point out to you, as far as historical, but that should be addressed.
I'm sorry, did you say campsite?
Oh, historical sites there.
Yeah.
That have been disturbed, and I'd just like to take a walk back there with somebody that's involved in this, because I'd hate to see it stay like that. I just think it's more of a fire hazard than anything, especially the way things are lately with the dry conditions. If it was possible, if they could just pile it up, I mean, instead of just letting it all over the place.
I'd be happy to talk with you about the reasons for that and how it actually is the safest and following the Massachusetts state laws about that to minimize fire damage and keeping it close to the ground to retain moisture.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah.
So I think we'll connect you and you can talk further about that.
I don't want to take your time.
Yep. It is tangential to the issue we're discussing, but I know that the Forestry Foundation has been very willing to chat with landowners about what's going on, for those who are abutters or just curious. So we can make sure you get that information.
So it's going to be where the people looking for the minerals won't be allowed down there anymore?
That's correct. That area is closed.
If you have a piece of paper, George, I can pass on Beth's contact information.
Thanks, Eva. Yeah, I didn't know if I could type them in somewhere, or I'm on our website as well under the staff contacts. But if you have the paper from Eva, that's great.
Yeah, I guess I just put it.
Any further comments on the question? Go ahead.
Nice talking to you, Beth.
So are we gonna have a timing for the survival of the seedlings? This is different. Like if they plant them and are there growing seasons for this? If they fail, do we ask them to plant more?
Typically with an RDA, if we're not requiring a restoration project, we wouldn't have those kind of constraints. But do you have any plans, Beth, for survival monitoring and replanting or anything of that nature?
We haven't put a number on it, but knowing that we'll be monitoring the site periodically, if none of them, survive to the next year, we would look at doing some additional or thinking about why didn't they survive and what alternately could we propose to you all, or whether it's species or method of planting. So we would monitor and sort of, I think, evaluate as we go the success or lack thereof of what's put down. But the intent would be, as you've said, to do minimal soil disturbance in the hopes of maximum potential for restabilizing those soils, and can go from there.
Another public question?
Yes, this river overflows quite a bit or not leaky, but it does overflow. How you gonna protect those seedlings from that?
Yeah, that
It'll-
would be natural forces at work, which is the case whether we would do it or not. And for all those soils, thinking on forest timelines and geologic timelines, the river and the riverine area have been impacted by those water flows over, many, many years and will continue to be. So again, I think that kind of falls under the category of we'll monitor. If there's a sort of serious and substantial flooding causing the river to rise to that level, that would, cause serious soil washout no matter what. So I guess maybe Julie, and for the rest of the commission, would you have advice for us in that scenario, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, really, I do think monitoring is the key. The hope is that your seedlings have gotten their roots established to some degree before an event of that size comes through, and that you're able to have some survival success. Floodplain forests are, once they're established, they're accustomed to that kind of event. But we also know that the soils in Easthampton are highly erodible, and that's some of the concern with the digging that's been going on back there. Is just in a high flow event, it could erode some of those areas. So we're trying to get additional root coverage, and part of the goal for this project is to get additional root coverage to stabilize all of those soils. So I think it really does just come down to monitoring after an event.
So
like that.
all these holes are gonna be filled?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
No
Some of
material is
them are
going to be brought
pre-painted,
in. There's no
They're over.
materials being authorized to be brought in, and no heavy earthwork.
Yeah. Because some of them are over 3 feet deep.
Yeah, and that, if I could jump in there just to that point, that comes from the sort of overarching intent to keep the area closed to the public and continue monitoring really with that as the primary, keeping people out to reduce that risk from open holes where the public might be, and bringing in heavy machinery that would be required to do that sort of soil moving would just further open the property. So right now we want to just keep that area signed and closed. And we do expect, we might need to do further measures to both dissuade people, make it harder, and in enforcement capacity. So we are in touch with the Easthampton police, who will respond to trespassers on the property. We have towing. And so beyond that, the signage and trying to make the signage unavoidable is our current status, and the keeping people off is really the best thing we can do to minimize risk.
Yes, have you had an opportunity to visit the site since our meeting in December? Has there been any evidence of further trespass?
I haven't been myself, but I have gotten a report from our local forest steward, our longtime volunteer, who said that when he came by, there was no one parked and no evidence of anyone having come in. I talked with the Ernie's Towing as well, and as they've done patrols, they have not seen any parked cars to tow. And so just knowing that, it seemed like the barriers, the vegetation we used to brush in, since that had been untouched, according to our forest steward, and no known people parking. I'm sort of fingers crossed that for the winter season, at least, the message having gone out to the organized groups of rockhounds and mineral clubs, that will hopefully be the status quo for a few months, and being aware that as the weather warms up and more people who used to use that trail and access the area for both just river recreation and hiking and mineral digging, that they're going to want to come back out. We'll have to be extra vigilant at that point.
Does it make any sense to put down erosion blankets while the
trees are young to keep more soil from eroding before the roots can.
We talked a little bit about that. I don't think it would make a lot of sense in this context, especially because we're gonna have such small seedlings all over the place. You'd have to be putting holes all over the erosion controls. So what was discussed was more of a monitoring strategy to revisit areas that might be experiencing erosion. And we haven't seen what I think, Ava, you had been out a couple times, and I know Beth had been out, and no signs of significant erosion yet. We were definitely wanting though to keep watching over the winter.
Yep.
And in the wet season, if we get a wet season.
And this RDA, as Beth mentioned, will create a procedure, because currently I can't access the site as it's currently posted. So, but this RDA will allow access for the commissioners and myself with prior notification to New England Forestry Foundation.
So this will be a positive determination.
No, this would be a negative determination. Most likely type 2, which would say that the work described is within an area subject to jurisdiction, but would not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that would be the most appropriate, or would it be a type 3?
Or
But
is
there's
it
no
a type
conditions.
5
Oh, boy.
with the exemption? Given that there's a, so,
Oh, what exemption do we have?
well, so, okay, so there's exemption, you guys see it? Got the wetlands protection up here. So minor activities within the riverfront area meeting the requirements of the buffer zone. So our research area is the riverfront here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And then here we have our activities within the buffer zone that are exempt. And I'm looking at plantings of native tree species of shrubs or
Mhm.
ground cover, but
Mhm.
excluding turf lawns.
You're right. I think we could use that.
But I also think 2 would be applicable as well.
Yeah, so we could do,
Be a stickler, might
They
be a
want-
field stuff also.
You take a look.
depending on how far up the slope we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I would just go 3, probably.
There's no conditions, right? We're not doing any.
Not 3, 2.
Three, 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2 with no conditions, basically.
yeah.
Is Eva going out, having permission to go out there, a condition?
Once the signs,
It's written into the RDA scope itself.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a type 2 might be the cleanest. Okay. Just because it covers all of the resource areas. And you could make a motion?
I'll move to issue a negative determination, type 2, that the work described in the request is within an area subject to jurisdiction of the act, but the work will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, the work does not require the filing of notice of intent.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ava, do you want us to fill out the paperwork and sign for you? Sure. Okay.
Just want to say thank you very much for your review of this. We really appreciate your support. We'll start making plans to move forward with those plantings and keep you posted, Eva, and all of you as outlined here. So thank you. And George, I look forward to hearing from you and talking with you as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
And Beth will plan on a quarterly report sometime in the spring,
Yes.
hopefully with the plan for when the plantings.
That sounds good. Yeah, so early spring, I'll let you know. I can let you know as soon as we know the plan for plantings and any, the specifications of the seedlings, et cetera, that we'll source following, the questions that you all had there too. So happy to talk about that at any point if you have questions before, an official quarterly report, for example.
Excellent. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you. I will log off. Is that the end of the discussion on this?
It is. Yep. You're fine
Okay.
to go and leave.
So I'll
Okay.
send this to you via email as well as mail to the Littleton office.
Excellent. That works well. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Well, thank you for letting me be involved in it.
You're quite
Um,
welcome.
There are some other issues down at the river that I'd like to talk to sometime. I don't know if tonight would be the night, but
So anytime at the beginning when we ask about public concerns, non-agenda items,
so I'll just.
that's
for the
the,
next
yeah, that
meeting.
would be the appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Great.
Great. You
Thank you.
can also be in contact with me as well. If you want to shoot me an email, conservation@easthamptonma.gov.
We'll do that.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Not yet, no.
Oh.
There's another line on the next page, I think. Other direction.
Funny sleepy meeting midwinter days, you know,
Mhm.
where then April comes and everybody's there. Oh, I need
Yeah.
a permit right now for this project. Could be flying now. But no.
Think,
Thank you so much.
all right. Moving on to request for certificate of compliance, Easthampton Park Solar One LLC, 232 Park Street, Master Review File number 151293.
They requested a continuance to the February 10th meeting.
All right, can we have a motion to that effect?
Motion to continue to February 10th at 6 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, continue to February 10th. Enforcement actions, any updates?
I do not have any updates on any of the enforcement actions. We're in a bit of a, yeah, pretty much. Well, so we don't have, I'll just like run through them really quickly. We have not made contact with the Gauls on this one.
Okay,
B and D, we are just in a waiting pattern until spring.
Yep.
And then C is reliant on another monitoring report.
great, okay. Great. Open space update. Anything on Echodale?
Yeah, Echodale. So I did contact Chris Politan because he said he was going to do that cut stem treatment, and the commission directed to stay engaged with Chris Politan this time around. So he said that he's aiming for the second week of February once the weather's above freezing. So it's still on his radar, which is good.
Seems like a weird time to do cut stem.
Too early?
We're too late.
Yeah, you want both.
Yeah. Well, one of
He
the-
originally was going to do it in November, if you recall that.
Which,
Yeah,
that didn't,
I don't,
yeah.
This was going to be his pro bono cut stem treatment.
Is that why it's?
Right.
would you dig around a little bit on that and chat with him about it? That, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense because maybe with cut stem, it's okay. I know with foliar, you certainly want to have the majority of action going on up above. And I was thinking with cut stem, you wanted to have things
Not dormant.
not dormant also, but I could be wrong on that.
I can look into that.
Okay.
I don't have, that's all I have on Echodale.
Okay.
I don't have much of an update on 385, except to say that I did have a meeting with Mark Walmsley and Dave Rothstein, in Easthampton, like conservation brainstorming meeting that apparently happen biannually or so. And I guess I just want to note for the record that as we await any further information about 385, the development component of it, that it was made really clear to me, which I felt like was pretty unclear prior to this, that these two, that the conservation and development parcel are truly linked, and that that one is unlikely to happen without the other. I don't know if that's been clear to all the commissioners, but that's really the update I have for you on that. It's still, this parcel's still privately owned. Kestrel doesn't own it yet. The community builders doesn't own it yet. So the sale has not gone through and won't go through until there's progress.
Okay, so the restriction wouldn't be put in place until after the permits are issued?
Until after there's some progress with it. I mean, so 385, the development is currently tied up in appeal as well as not permitted yet by this commission.
Appeal with not DEP.
Not with DEP, no.
Planning, something?
With this, so they appealed the ZBA's comprehensive permit. Yeah,
Okay.
to the state. So that, and that's where this project remains. But that's just the update that I have with the commission, that these projects do seem linked, and that if for some reason 385 Main Street, the development doesn't occur, there's the CR is unlikely to occur independently.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then Borkowski parcel. So there has been a solid amount of movement on that since the presentation last week. So I did, okay, which one to begin with? So I went out, I guess I'll start with that. I went out to the parcel today with Scott Smith, Ben Jankowski, who were both at our meeting, Al Donahue, who was here remotely, and Walker Metcalf, who's a mountain bike trail constructor.
Okay.
As a profession. So we did take a look around. I'm happy to show site photos if the commission would like. I also thought, so I can just show the loop we took. So they took me on, I asked them to show like what the current route most people take is, just to continue getting a better sense of the lay of the land. So this green loop is the loop that we took, and this is roughly called the Broadbrook Loop. If commissioners have hiked this or biked this before. Yep. So this is somewhere between, it's like around 4 miles, this whole loop is. And a number of observations from this trek. The mountain bikers told me a lot about how this is a really challenging parcel to do in the other direction, that the downhill trail is a really challenging uphill trail. The uphill trail is more doable as a downhill trail. So some people will come up. So this is the flow. Can you see that? Yeah. People come up through the access point. They cross the bridge here, and then they go this way up the parcel. I want to talk about access some too, and property ownership through here. There is another trail called Hans Solo that is not on this map that kind of jags down here, and that's different from the jump trail that we've also seen images of. The jump trail kind of forms like a little loop up here. From previous visits. So all the different loops I've taken through here. So like Han Solo is this trail right here that comes down. Yeah. And then the part of the parcel I haven't fully explored yet is the part that was most impacted by the microburst, which is this DCR grant section. There is a water body that some people call a vernal pool, some people call a pond. I'm not sure it's actually either one of those, but somewhere up here on the DCR grant trail.
Yeah, I think it's a fire pond. Like, I don't think it's natural.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
No, do you think it's 10,000 square feet? It looks small, but it doesn't even show up on all the maps, so.
Yeah.
Might be, I guess I don't. I'm there one.
Excited to see if there's amphibian breeding there. Want to get some water?
Where the log cabin.
Yeah.
So I can orient myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So the log cabin is this building right here. And this is their like standard parking lot. This is where you park the lower parking lot. Yep. If you're like gonna try to go into Mount Tom here.
Yeah.
Yep. And then this is the upper parking lot.
Okay.
So this is the place where some people access this. The mountain bikers also told me that there's a pull off here on 141 on the Holyoke side.
Yeah.
That bikers will bike up through Holyoke and then up this trail. They pointed that trail out to me while we were out there.
That's what I.
So some of your photos look like there's ATV tracks in the snow.
Yep. So we did notice some ATV tracks in the snow. couple theories about it. They were in a couple different places along this loop. They weren't continuous along this loop. So this whole loop that is apparently the preferred mountain bike loop is not accessible by ATV. It gets quite narrow. There's some ATV tracks up here, pretty close, right on the Holyoke line. There's also a DCR trail camera in here. So the mountain bikers thought that, so this is DCR land right here.
Yeah, DCR is actually the ATV.
They thought that DCR was that ATV. Now we also noticed some ATV tracks down here, which are more likely to be a property owner. Exactly, coming up here. The mountain bikers told me that ATV use is not super common, but we obviously saw it. I didn't have a chance to follow. Nice thing about ATV tracks right now is I could just figure out where they come from.
Yeah, right.
So could go back out and follow them in the snow to see where they come from. So yeah, so this is a rough sense. This map does not show all the parcels on it, so I thought we could take a look at the parcels on Max Mapper.
There's a figure that that Jeff Bagg, somebody made in support of the grant application. That's one of these parcels, like, because of the funding source, is no public access allowed, and I don't remember which one it is, but do you have that figure?
Yes, and I did look into that. So that's actually this parcel. So this is Borkowski parcel proper.
Yep.
This one right here.
Yep.
This is town forest.
Yep.
Now this is not marked on Gaia, but is actually two parcels, one of which is privately owned and one of which is the one that you're referring to,
Yep.
Commissioner Buttrick. That's it was acquired using the Aquifer Land Acquisition Grant, also known as the Rocky parcel is who it was purchased from.
Yep.
And so I did look into that. I spent a bunch of time digging through the Aquifer Land Acquisition Grant, couldn't see anything about it not providing public access, and actually spoke with Mark Stinson about this, who said that he believes it's marked as no public access on Mass Mapper because it has no frontage. So there's just no public access to it. But I did review the 2020 Mass Trails Grant application that Jeff Bagg put together, and they intended to do trail work through that public access, that no public access parcel.
Yeah, excuse
Do
me.
you have more information on that?
I mean, when Stuart Beckley was the town planner, and he was involved in the acquisition of that parcel. And
Right.
he pretty clearly said that public access was not allowed on land acquired with that funding source when they got the funding for that in like the late 1990s, early 2000s, or whatever it was.
Where do you think that's recorded?
It's a great question.
I have the deed for that parcel. We could look at the deed.
I
Yeah, that would be
believe-
the deed.
I believe it was watershed protection, like drinking water, well supply
Right.
protection funds used to acquire it. And it was that, back in those days, which weren't that long ago, like the things weren't necessarily written down and documented quite as well. So I think that's something that was like in the grant program requirement, but then it never got recorded in the deed.
Okay.
Right.
I understand it worked out.
Okay.
So
That's good to know. I mean,
It says conservation restrictions for water supply protection, so presumably it would be in here if it was a thing.
right. And this is a 5-page document that we can review now, but there's no indications about usages on here.
Mhm.
I am curious, this conservation restrictions, if that a perpetual conservation restriction, but I have not been able to actually find an additional CR or know who holds this CR.
it's probably in the drawers.
In a box. George has
We went in those drawers.
Never been
We went in
Actually,
Stuart Beckley's old drawers.
recorded anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's nothing written down and I'm the only one on planet Earth that remembers and nobody
Doesn't
cares,
count.
then
Doesn't
it's
count
like,
anymore.
yeah, it doesn't count.
I mean, I can also contact Jeff
I'm not
because
gonna
he
work this
did,
day.
in this Mass Trails grant application, indicate doing trail work on that parcel.
Yep.
And Mark thought that is marked as having no public access because it has no frontage.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not in any deeds or other documents recorded with the registry, I would presume
Doesn't count.
that at this point, yeah, it's
Should be the public information trail of the,
I did look up this Aquifer Land Acquisition Grant Program, which was a program in the 90s. Couldn't find
it
any.
does say there restrict the use of such land pursuant to the Aquifer Land Acquisition Grant Program. But that's all it seems to say.
It's probably not many people at DP or whoever left would remember that program or.
It was a DEP program. That's right.
Guessing.
And it may also be that the thinking around what should or shouldn't be allowed on aquifer protection land has changed. I mean, I can't think of any other programs that would currently restrict access that way, right?
Maybe they just didn't want people using the funds to buy like open
Maybe.
space for recreational purposes. Yeah.
That could be.
I can reach out to Jeff to see if he found any more information about this.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if it wasn't the case. I just wouldn't want anybody go down too far down in one path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just hearsay from your memory, so I don't have anything documented.
And it is, I mean, it is marked that way in Mass Mapper, right? Like as having no public access.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's explainable by the fact that it doesn't have frontage, which is that was what Mark Stinson thought. But Mark Stinson's he's an expert in many things, but I don't think this is one he's actually an expert in. Okay. So, let's just look at the parcel ownership for a second, because I do think that's a good place for us to go when we think about next steps. So this is the trail access from Bernie Ave, just to orient us. And this is the log cabin up here, once again, right up here. So this is Borkowski parcel. The trail immediately goes this way. And then it crosses. So then it goes into this parcel, the rocky parcel, we'll call it. And then it goes on to this private land. And it traverses the private property, and then it comes on to Easthampton town forest land. And then it comes on to, this is owned by the Newtons, who wrote a letter of support last time there was a trail project proposed, the Mass Trails project.
And it looks like it's under CR.
Yeah, I guess it does look like it's under CR. I didn't realize that until this moment.
It's all shown as green, which is open space,
which is
right?
CR,
So it must be protected.
So there we go. So, which I think we hold this CR, so I guess that's that.
Who does the private parcel belong to?
This parcel belongs to the Jacques. And my understanding is that Jeff did not have any contact with them. So the scope of Jeff's trail, the scope of Jeff's trail back in the early 2020s was to clear this trail, which has been really affected by the microburst. It's now pretty much impassable. I haven't actually traversed it yet. So this trail that comes in at the Hendrick Street wells, he was going to clear this trail, and then he was going to do a cross-country trail in here that was going to connect like between. There's a couple existing trails that don't form full loops. And then he was going to work on an uphill trail through this part of the parcel.
Okay. So it didn't involve that private parcel.
It didn't involve that private parcel.
Okay.
Nor did it involve, this land that there's a CR on over here. But the loop that people currently take continues over here Then it goes through this little parcel.
Taking you a mouse.
Again,
Yeah, give you a mouse.
yeah, goes through this little parcel. Yeah, this one controls the TV. And then there's this parcel who's owned by, and I thought this parcel was actually owned. Mm, okay, that's what I thought. I don't know why it's not colored. This,
CCR.
no, this one's actually owned by us.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know why it's owned by the city of Easthampton. I'm not sure why it's not green. This parcel is owned by a woman who lives in Chicopee. And then this skinny parcel, the trail currently goes on to. You can see it kind of in the back here, the Broadbrook Loop. This isn't precisely accurate. Goes out, there's an access point at the log cabin. And then continues on to Borkowski parcel. And then the descent is entirely within Borkowski parcel. So this, I've been told that this property owned by a private landowner is flagged, is marked for no trespassing.
Okay.
So that's that. And then there obviously used to be access coming from the Hendrick Street wells.
And who is that owner?
This one right here or this one?
That one.
That landowner is the Lucias. Yeah. And then the city owns this parcel, as I said, but there's no current trails onto it. And then this parcel actually just came into a new owner. It's mostly wooded. And she's a dear friend of our arts and culture coordinator. So possible CR potential, maybe. Okay. Anyways, so so many questions on this, and the mountain bikers have big ideas and big visions for a whole trail revamp of a flow trail, a flow loop that would traverse this whole parcel that would, be akin to the size of what the Broadbrook Loop does right now. As well as potentially having another option for a descent, as well as like a cross-country trail. These are all the things they expressed to me on our site visit today.
Mm-hmm.
I think, obviously, any trail work out here is going to be pretty phased. And I think the private parcel, the private property components of this seem challenging as to how to consider next steps. So
it's really just that one parcel, right?
It's really just this one. Well, and then, I guess currently where the property is up here. Oh, it's this one too.
Okay.
Lady in Chicopee. The lady in Chicopee.
Right.
This property has no frontage. I think the last time I saw minutes from the CPA meeting where this was discussed, where the CPA meeting in 2020 talked about purchase of this property.
Okay.
Yeah, and currently the trail goes on this little skinny one, but I think that wouldn't be that hard to bump it over. So
So random that some lady in Chicopee.
It's not particularly tiny.
I guess that's true. It looks tiny on the map compared to the others.
it's a lot of land. I mean, it's for that loop I was just describing is 4 miles. It's sizable.
Yep.
Be happy to meet any commissioner out there if anyone wants to go to a site visit and get a sense. Obviously, you're of course welcome to go by yourself as well. This parcel is 8.5 acres. So
Also, when Jeff was going after the trails grant, the parcel where the well is, those have a access restriction on them too, and that was going to be a problem, I think.
Yes.
What they wanted to do at that time. The only other thing I know is that there's an old fire road or logging road on the Borchowski parcel that comes out right on 141, just to the west of the log cabin. It's almost like just a flat grade now, I think. I don't even know if there's a break in the guardrail there, or if it's the guardrail along 141 is just continuous past it, but
And it's not this current access point?
I don't. No, it's definitely not that. It's like point on the screen.
It might actually be, it might be this. What is this?
Oh, up here.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be that.
Okay, good
Yep.
to know.
Yep. Yeah, kind of went right across
It's
the
as in
grade.
like mid-hill.
Yeah, on 141.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
How does
Think-
anyone access it?
They don't,
It's a guardrail.
I think. Yeah. I don't
How
think
would
they
it have
do.
been a log? You're literally in the middle of the hill.
You know, maybe it was when, I don't know, who knows what the site of the history is here, but
Okay.
yeah, it'd be interesting to look at like historical aerials from 50,
Yeah.
60 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
It's so steep. Too.
Yep.
So steep, for sure.
I guess there would be some traffic.
So, so this whole area, as we know, is natural heritage. I did reach out to Natural Heritage. They confirmed that the 5 species identified in 2020 remain the same 5 species. So 3 of them are our data sensitive species of snakes. There's the eastern box turtle and the orange sallow moth. Are our 5 natural heritage species on this parcel. And so the next step would be to do a pre-filing consultation with them. But they ask for like a trail plan or like an extent of work scope plan. So I think that's sort of what I'm seeing as the stage we're at right now, is thinking about what we would want to bring to natural heritage as a possible idea.
The moth is going to be the tricky one probably to deal with, would be my guess.
What?
Because with the terrestrial, with the reptiles and snakes and things, you can kind of see where they are and, know where they're going to be and encourage them to move. Like, you cannot squish them. Whereas if the moth have laid eggs underneath some bark or on some plant or like a leaf litter or something on the ground, you're gonna have to really probably have a person that knows what they're doing to figure out when and why it's okay to do work or like figure out their exact life cycle and use that to
Work when
figure
you're
out.
not active or.
Yeah, where they're not active or haven't laid eggs yet or
Right.
something like that.
Do the box turtles also lay eggs in the ground?
I would assume so, but you can kind of exclude them from the work area, or you can know like
Just do it at a
when they're
time
gonna
of
be.
year when they're.
They want access to water
Yeah.
certain times.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with box turtle, but I've dealt with other turtles. There's like a cycle to it.
And so I guess the planning department did contract with, they were contracting with GZA for the overall permitting, and then GZA subcontracted with Oxbow to do a habitat evaluation, but it seems like their habitat evaluation only covered the 3 data sensitive reptiles.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure, I guess, having never gone through the natural heritage process myself, like if their recommendations in that proposal 4 years ago would still be applicable, like could still apply, and we would have to do that again if we would need
Probably depends on what they were. If it was all sort of construction management recommendations, it's probably the same stuff. If it was anything specific to different sites, it might need updated.
it was pretty time of year based.
Yeah,
It's
it probably would carry forward then, I would think.
okay.
Yeah. Somebody just needs to make friends with the state bug person.
Entomologist, I think is the word. Would love it up. Bug person.
Entomologist or entomologist.
Entomologist.
Dragonfly expert.
Does the fact that it's a species of special concern change how, like, special concern versus threatened versus endangered?
It does a little bit, but I think it's basically still the same process.
You don't want anyone to know what's up there or what they think is up there, right?
For some,
They don't want to publicize it. They think that that's there because it'll draw somebody to it.
Seems like a lot of times these data records come from somebody that's relatively local and knows an awful lot.
Right.
Things. And if you talk to the right person, you can figure out who that person is. And then,
We know somebody at Pennsfield State. Why it doesn't matter.
perfect. Maybe they live in Easthampton and the people that came up with these records found these identifications.
I mean, I wonder if yeah, do you have to actually have found an orange saddle moth in town? Is that the?
I would think so.
I think
Okay.
what's that map in the lower left, right?
Yeah,
What
that's
is-
the
What's the
distribution
legend say?
based on records. And actual-
Yeah.
Based on records, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The dragonfly person told us that he had spotted the 2 dragonflies and we would never see one of them ever in our lives. Never see it. So
Yeah, I saw that you put in the that or the update that there was a sample memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, so
Do we already have one signed?
no, so this was when they presented for us last meeting, they described that they had an MOU with other
Yeah.
towns that like gave NEMBA access as a acting authority. The MOU that they shared with me it's with Williams College, from my perspective seems broader than what we're looking to agree to right now.
some kind of template to.
Yeah, it could be some kind of template for sure, but I get the sense that we're in an earlier stage than
Okay.
this. This MOU basically says like, okay, NEMBA, go design the trails, and then come to us and we'll approve them. But then also, NEMBA shall be permitted at sole expense to construct the trails and the approved design. But they're going to fund it all, which I don't think is necessarily going to be the case.
But are we asking them to create the trail design that we would submit to the National Heritage?
Right. Well, that's I guess a question. I can go back to NEMBA and say, can you create a trail design for parcels that the city currently owns that you would want to be like phase 1 of a trail design that I can bring to Natural Heritage?
I think the Natural Heritage, my experience with them is that it tends to be a lot of back and forth and it's very discussion-y.
Okay.
So it's not like you need to have something set in stone that's ready to go, like other permits. They're very open to sort of back and forth. So I think if you went with something relatively early stage sketch plan, you could talk through what the goals are, what you're thinking, what that construction process might look like. I would definitely take the NEMBA folks to that meeting.
Okay.
To be able to really speak to that. And then I think that would give some more direction about, what is or isn't going to be viable before they get too far along the line of really thinking through specifics.
Okay.
That's my experience, is that they're pretty willing to meet early and often and talk through what isn't going to work and come to an agreement together.
Okay.
Especially for stuff like this where it's trails based and
Right.
not like building buildings.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, there's the review biologist, but if you can, and they're super busy, but if you could get to the actual, like, field biologists or the subject matter experts, then that's who to have a conversation with.
Okay.
Yep.
But I think I'm not sure that NEMBA has a great sense of. I think NEMBA thinks. I guess I'm not sure NEMBA has a great sense of how the property components of this factor in. So I'm wondering if we brought to Natural Heritage this a trail proposal that roughly followed the Broadbrook Loop as it stands.
Mhm.
That's not a trail project that the Easthampton Conservation Commission can just do on
Right.
private property.
Are the private parcels identified in our open space plan as target properties at all?
That's a great question.
Is there a basis for having a conversation with those landowners, or
I
would we
can
be starting from scratch?
follow up on that. I can imagine, I mean, I have to imagine
I
that,
would think
Yeah.
that those gaps would have been in there, yeah, to fill in,
right.
but it's been a few years since
Right.
I've looked at that document.
Yep. I can take a look.
So that would be a good first step. And then, if they're in there, that seems like an easy segue to start a conversation with Allison, the planner.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I would still maybe seek some advice from her about if there are any ways that we could easily go about pursuing a trail easement through those properties.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't necessarily have to acquire them for this purpose. It could be a trail easement.
Right. It seemed like Jeff's vision when I read his application, his grant application was like, we're just not even going to touch this. We're going to focus on a trail build in parcels that we own already. And then I think his sort of hope was that we would build momentum and then we would be able to sort of go after some of those other pieces.
Yeah, I think the other factor though is topography and where you can make a good trail work that's maintainable in the long term.
Right.
So I would, if we run up against dead ends with those other parcels, that pushes us to a different direction, but it seems like it's worth taking a look at least briefly first.
Okay.
I believe in the Pomeroy Meadows area, which is in my neighborhood, there are trails that the city constructed on private property to connect up two different pieces.
Probably through an easement, right?
Right.
Yeah. I know like the part of the Brickyard Brick Trail is an easement through private land.
Mhm.
So I know that there's definitely trail easements around town that one's probably for Scullen, but
Yeah,
I think Jeff got one through the solar project too, as part of that. The solar project that we still have. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm seeing, so I'll take a look at the open space and recreation plan. And then it does seem like, certainly the direction I'm getting from the mountain bikers is that they would want a loop that looked something like this. They're like, the trail could go somewhere else on the grade, but that they would want a loop that looks something like this. That would be a machine built loop. So I think perhaps the next step with Natural Heritage is to show them something like this and say, this is a 3 to 4 feet machine, the hope would be a 3 to 4 foot machine built trail, approximately 4 miles.
Yeah.
Just to give the commissioners a sense too, I did ask the trail builder who was there, I was like, what is the price range? He said, for a machine built trail, it's about $5 to $7 per foot. So for 4 miles, 4.5 miles, that's like 150.
Yeah. Wow. I would have guessed that.
It's a lot of funds for sure.
a lot less than a trail.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that seems actually pretty reasonable.
And yeah, and they expressed a desire. So there's we saw 2 obvious locations where new bridges would be needed if the trail stayed in the same place. One that's kind of on this slope. Let me pull up that photo really fast. I think the commission has seen it before. And it's hard when everything's covered in snow.
Yeah.
But this is I'm sort of on the other side here, and then the water comes through here.
Okay.
So it would need to be something kind of like over to here somewhere if the trail stayed where it is. But they did talk about, that it doesn't really make sense to try to to build bridges or to think about building bridges if the trails might move.
Right.
The other bridge note was the bridge that currently is there. And Al Donahue was noting, so he went down in the river and looked at the telephone poles and said it's pretty stable and it looks like it's in pretty good condition. It's missing a railing here and it's missing a couple flooring pieces. That's the kind of thing they can just do, right?
If there's no ground disturbance,
If there's no ground disturbance. Okay.
We don't need to, there wouldn't be a permit for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Al can just go out with his hammer.
With his tools. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's all that I noted on this.
Ava,
It's exciting.
do we have, I took a course on conservation CR monitoring a couple weeks ago, and they said, oh, there should be a place for your town. You can go and look at a list of all the CRs. Do we have a list?
We do. It's in the open space and recreation plan. I can provide for you the list. I can pull that for you if you'd like, Sarah, and I can send it to you. I will say I was looking into this. I don't think the Conservation Commission has any baseline document reports, which is that's what when you acquire a CR, you're supposed to do.
Is have that in general or for certain parcels?
I didn't see any easily accessible.
For Stuart's desk.
Yeah, right. Maybe some of them are in there.
There is one for the new parcel we acquired, right?
Yes, that's true. There is one for Reservation Road. Yep. That parcel that was acquired in
Yeah. So they've got to be around.
They've got to be
where
around.
they are.
Okay. Well, I'll do a little more digging. That's on my list as
Are these empty now, or do we still have files in there?
we do still have files in there.
It could be in there somewhere.
Be in there.
So when you said you would pull one for me, there's not like a place on the city website.
It's in the open space and recreation plan, which is on the city website. So the list of CRs is on there. Yeah. But doing an annual monitoring visit to all of the CRs that the city holds, I think is something that should be part of my job as we move forward.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be great if we can get to that point.
Mhm.
It would be nice to try to find the BDRs first.
Yeah.
So you have a point of comparison.
Yeah, so I have a point of comparison.
You know what I'm monitoring.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Any other questions on
No,
housekeeping? It's really exciting.
it is. Yeah.
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 And it does feel like there's, NEMBA has grant opportunities, and then also Mass Trails grant could be another thing that is reconsidered, and also CPA.
Yep.
All of those things.
Great. All right. Compliance updates.
I guess not, if you can believe it.
I can believe it.
Very little's happening, I
Right.
think is my sense of it. 6973 Loudville H. We're just waiting on an as-built from them. So the commission requested, just to keep that fresh on everyone's mind, that
Okay.
we looked at the slope, which was of the secondary basin. It was fully grown in. But Commissioner Buttrick noted that that grade didn't look like the one that was permitted. So we're waiting on an as-built.
Okay.
Yeah. And very little I can say on O for Tasty Talk that we still have not received the $81,000 from Sage Engineering.
But no work is happening, right? They're just,
No
I know
work.
they've been setting up some perimeter controls and things, but that's it.
Yep. That there's some erosion controls that have been established, but no work has occurred.
Okay.
And
What was, I wasn't here when that discussion was had, I don't think. What did we leave it at with the cemetery as to what they needed to do with the piles?
So the commission decided that, silt fencing around the piles was sufficient,
Okay,
given that
And
there
that's what's
wasn't
there.
really another. Yeah.
great.
And they did contact me to let me know that they were gonna add some to one of the piles, and I asked them how much, and it seemed like an fractionally small amount. It was like a 20th of what they currently have on there to stockpile it. So.
And the piles are only slowly emerging from their snow cover.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. The ground's very frozen.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Did you say we have one set of minutes or no?
We have no minutes. Minutes for the next meeting.
All right. And then on the wetlands ordinance, we were very excited as a working group and proud of ourselves. We thought we were all done, and then we realized that, yes, we've got the regulations in good shape now for everyone to take a look at, but we have not gone back and made the ordinance match. So we have a little bit more work to do, but stay tuned. We will be circulating that, or Eva will be circulating that shortly, so folks can take a look. Shortly, I mean like in the next, month-ish.
Working group shortly.
Yeah.
The last note, this isn't on the agenda, but just under general business, I just wanted to let the commissioners know that I received some road salt monitoring kit from the Connecticut River Conservancy, monitoring some of our tributaries in Easthampton, and I wanted your input. You seen these before?
No.
They're just little test strips. Little chlorine test strips.
And you, just stick it in the melt or in what?
In the, in stream water.
Oh, okay. To
Yep.
see, I got it. Okay.
So you just take a couple,
So this is like doing your aquarium water chemistry.
yeah, exactly, precisely, yeah. But these test strips are kind of expensive if you buy a bunch of them, but the Connecticut River Conservancy, sent them, as part of like a citizen science initiative. So I wanted to get the commissioners' sense. I am monitoring Hannah Brook at one of the culverts. Is one of the rivers I picked.
Near what?
Near Clark Street.
Okay.
That's actually one of I was looking into our bad culverts in Easthampton. It's right by one of our bad culverts.
Okay.
Which I have, that's another thing that's on my long-term list, is to come up with our highest priority culverts.
Mm-hmm.
If we ever have an opportunity for a culvert replacement. Yeah.
Are you inviting us to go out and do your science experiment?
Sure, you can come out with me if you'd like. Yeah. I think it's a fun opportunity to get some more data, and
Definitely.
I'm also monitoring this one's, it does flow through Easthampton, but Nashawanic Brook at Pine Grove Conservation Area, which is actually in Northampton, but cool. Longer project there.
Yeah.
Did the commissioners have, I could probably do two more sites based on the number of kits I have. I did think about monitoring the ponds, but they're really frozen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, which ones would be the most likely to go out?
Right, that was,
You could potentially do, is it still considered Broad Brook where it flows out of Nash Brook or Nash Pond?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't know.
You could potentially look at the outlet of the pond,
yeah,
like downstream of Riverside, wherever you can, where's the next place you can actually get to it, that it's not walled in?
Right at the street where it goes into Lower.
Street or
Can you get to it there?
it's
I
like,
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
open water there because the
Yeah.
birds around it.
Yeah.
like over
That would be
here.
a good spot.
Yeah.
'Cause the road goes right.
Yeah, that
You
might
might
be.
try to get close though.
Although I'm not sure if it's got enough flow through there to stay unfrozen or if it's backwatered.
I could take a look
It's been,
there though.
it's been unfrozen because the geese have been on it
Has it?
in that area.
Yeah. And that's, oh yeah, it is called Broad Brook there. Okay.
Are there any particular, I'm trying to think if there's any particularly high salt areas, anywhere people notice that? I think we do a pretty decent job of not over salting usually, but
Williston does a pretty good job salting their sidewalks.
I've noticed that too.
I heard that there was, I don't know if it was statewide, maybe it was just citywide. My mechanic made me get this undercarriage treatment because they said that Massachusetts is now pre-treating all the roads with salt. That they're seeing all this extra damage on the bottom of the car from the extra salt.
Is that like a spray on treatment that they're doing on the
Yeah.
highway, something like that? It's not a rock salt, but it's
yeah.
a spray.
A lot of places have gone to
Yeah.
spraying the brine before a storm.
I mean, I thought we could test like, if the commission is like, could test down by the Oxbow.
Yeah, the Manhan, perhaps.
Yeah, the Manhan, or even where Route 10 crosses the Manhan. Right before the waterfall.
Over here.
Or, what's the one, what, is it the Manhan that passes under, I don't think it is, under Glendale? What goes under the Glendale Bridge?
Glendale.
Yeah, that's
Under
not-
Glendale,
Is that the
that's the
Manhattan?
Manhattan,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
it's like one of the branches.
The North
Yeah,
Branch.
that could be an okay spot. It's a little higher up in the watershed, but
Getting dizzy.
I know, we spun around.
Like if we were doing real science, we'd pick one stream and,
two different points.
yeah,
Yeah, I
different
don't,
points where it enters
I have,
the city,
this is
where
an
it leaves.
intriguing question. I have no
Yeah.
obvious answer to.
Or
I'm just
get snapshots.
throwing out ideas
Yeah.
at random.
That's, you said up by Glendale, right?
Yeah, where Glendale and West Street cross.
Oh, yeah, at the corner there.
Yeah, there's the bridge just before that.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right there.
I could test right there. That'd be of interest.
I think access is not great there, but
Mm.
I don't know, maybe it is.
You can get down to the river from there.
You can get
It's a
to the
little bit of
river.
a
There's
scramble.
not a great place to park. It's kind of a sketchy.
Yeah.
But it is on a hill, so I wonder if it gets more salt. I don't know.
So pretty widely driven roads.
Knotweed is just thinking about
Yeah.
starting on both sides of the road. That stretch, I started
Is
making
it?
it out when I run by.
Well done.
It's only so much.
This is the invasive removal that the city needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went on a run in the fall and I went down the hill and I was like, there's a piece, yeah, and then I went up the hill and there was like 20.
Yeah,
and I was
right, you're
like,
not gonna.
I
If
just
anyone
wanna
else,
be
speaking
home.
of invasive removal city, if anyone else is inspired to start a citizen campaign where like you get people to put signs out on their property that say, I'm okay with you pulling the swallowwort from my yard as you walk by, I think that would be great. We need a swallowwort awareness campaign instead
Yeah.
of taking over the city.
Crazy.
And
I just want to pick my.
Yeah. bliss,
Yeah, like,
ignorance.
Maybe I'll
Okay.
go check this spot out. Yeah. And maybe next year, Dan, we do a follow a stream.
A more thoughtful,
Yeah.
planned out approach.
Yep.
Follow a stream.
Yeah.
Cool.
it will be interesting to see how the ponds, like, how the salt dynamic, gets maybe muted or in the
Yeah.
ponds in terms of concentration, but then maybe it extends out longer,
It would.
after like a rain event,
Yeah.
maybe the river is like highest fight, and the downstream of the pond is much more gradual or something.
Mhm.
I don't know. All kinds of fun things you can do.
All right.
Enough fun?
I think that's enough fun.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we stop having fun and just sure.
Do we have a second?
Section be adjourned.
All right.
All those in favor?
I
Motion carries. It is
7:25.
7:25. We are
Good job.
concluding this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. Our next meeting will be February 10th at 6 p.m.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.